everyone.
This call is now.
Now it's 6 p.m. Welcome, everyone. I'm very tired. I'm gonna keep caffeinating throughout this meeting. It is 6 p.m. and I call this regular city council meeting of April 7th to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Thomas?
Here.
Councilmember Edwards?
Here.
Or yeah, Councilmember Carey?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark?
Here.
Councilmember Grant?
She notified us last meeting that she would be absent, as she is traveling right now.
Councilmember Dolan?
Here.
And Mayor Green?
Here. Okay, thank you. Would everyone please join me for the optional pledge of allegiance or moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry, I stumbled. Same reason. Okay, let's move on to approval of the agenda. I don't have any changes.
Third moves to approve the agenda.
Thomas seconds. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, let's move on now to public comments about items not on the agenda. Anyone in chambers, please, Jane, come up. You know the routine.
I'm Jane Harrelson, 172 Rafferty Drive. Juanita said, my kids need the pool. My sister and I used to swim while my dad lifted weights upstairs in the gym. So I'd like to invite everybody next Tuesday, April 14th at 1:30 p.m. PB Swims is going to be discussing with the Board of County Commissioners and considering the county's responsibility for Lake County Aquatic Center. And you're all invited. From 1975 to 1999, we had the best rec complex around. And with the students leaving Lake County Intermediate School next fall, that may be open up more opportunities for the taxpayers to use that gym. And as you know, my number one concern is the pool. Thanks.
Thank you, Jane. Anyone else in chambers like to give public comment? Please, Steve.
My name is Steve Prestash. I got two things. Administrator Simon said something at the last meeting that I found disturbing, and I wanted to challenge that. Administrator Simonson has in the past several times used puns, and it's therefore fitting that she should suffer that same fate. So you are actually the City Hall poet laureate, okay? Okay, the other thing is,
Do I get a cap?
I can get one. All right. I noticed last summer, some of the guys that hang out at the Zeitz Park were discouraging people from using the bathroom by saying how horrible they were and they should go up the street to the other ones. And when I saw that, I chewed them out for it. Then again, sometime after the last city council meeting, they were at it again, only it was someone that wasn't there the first time doing it. So I chewed them out over that again. But then I started thinking about, there's like a symmetry with that. The builders and the realtors don't want me on the P&Z committee. And I've been here 46 years. I've been a laborer. I've done all kinds of stuff, working with buildings. And I don't understand why I can't be on the P&Z committee. Part of the problem, I think, might be that the P&Z committee has some kind of a bylaw that they get to pick and choose who they want on the committee. If they don't want somebody on the committee, they can kick them off. If that's the fact of the matter, that bylaw needs to be changed. Thank you kindly.
Thank you, Steve. Hmm. Is there anyone else in chambers who would like to give public comment on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, is there anyone online who would like to give public comment for items not on the agenda? Please raise your virtual hand. Seeing none, let's move on. We're going to move right into the consent agenda, which only includes our minutes from March 17th. Does anyone have any corrections or modifications to those? All right. I would entertain a motion to
Move to
approve.
approve the consent agenda as written.
Terry seconds. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We're gonna go on right into presentations. It is the beginning of April, and you know what that means. It means a proclamation declaring April Leadville History Month. So, here we go. Whereas the National Park Service of the U.S. Department of the Interior designated Leadville's Historic District a National Historic Landmark District in 1961, marking it as one of the nation's most significant historic places. And whereas the 2015 Leadville Comprehensive Plan references the historic downtown as one of our community's greatest assets and makes numerous references to the importance of historic preservation in Leadville. And whereas people such as Abe Lee, Texas Jack, Horace Baby Doe and Augusta Tabor, Father Dyer, Oscar Wilde, Evelyn Furman, George Zaitz, Doc Holliday, Marshall Duggan, Carl Miller, Ken Schlober and Marilee Malhan, Carl and Donna Schaefer, Kathleen Fitzsimmons and Bill Harrington, and the multitude of immigrants from Leadville's mining glory days have produced legends and stories. And whereas places such as the Delaware Block, the Tabor Opera House, California Gulch, Stumptown, the Black Cloud, and Climax Mines, the Old Church and the House with the Eye continue to remain compelling today. And whereas the city of Leadville treasures our history and our historical assets, as well as our people and the legends and stories we hear and read about. And whereas the city of Leadville wishes to honor and preserve our past, and in doing so, contribute to a bright future. Now therefore, I, Dana Green, Mayor of Leadville, do hereby proclaim that April 2026 shall be celebrated as Leadville History Month. Please let Mr. Medina know to let those banners fly.
Well, in there.
We are going to move on to our second presentation, which is from Thistle. I don't know if everyone is familiar with them. They're a nonprofit organization that supports affordable housing. Specifically, the part that impacts Leadville is the portion of Thistle that deals with resident-owned communities. So Thistle was instrumental in helping Cooperativa Nueva Unión achieve ownership of that manufactured home community. And currently, they are helping CNU with a project to replace, revitalize, and restore their sanitation and water. So I would like to invite, who's coming up first? Francesca Rossi from Thistle. And let's learn a little bit more about this project.
I can't share my screen.
Yes, she feels. I'll make sure your co-host is.
Okay. I apologize. I think it's not gonna let me share my screen because of my computer settings for whatever reason.
How can you do your presentation?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, appreciate it. Council, thanks for having us tonight. My name is Francesca Rossi. I'm here with my coworker Benjamin Moore. We're here from Bissell Community Housing. We work specifically with resident-owned communities across Colorado. Currently, we work with 16 other mobile home parks that are resident-owned and managed. We work with Cooperativa Nueva Unión here in Leadville. And today we're just here to talk a bit more about their water and sewer infrastructure replacement project. It's been quite a project to go through. And we just, we're here to present on it and just kind of give you an update of where we're at. So like I said, Cooperativa Nueva Unión is resident owned, which means that they're not investor owned. There is no middleman. Every single expense that they have, they pay for out of their own pocket, out of their rent. And everything that they take on themselves as a volunteer board, as a volunteer community made up of members. They have 28 permanently affordable home sites in a sense that being a cooperative, unless one day they choose to dissolve, but for perpetuity, they will be affordable. And all the decisions that they make are made collectively by all the members of the cooperative, their budget, their financials, the way that they handle issues. It's very much a cooperative process. And like I said at the beginning, we are a technical assistant provider across Colorado to all these other cooperatives and mobile home parks. And what we have right now is an owner's representative contract with Cooperativa Nueva Unión to help guide them throughout this process of replacing their water and sewer project. So currently we're working with engineers, we're working with sanitation, with water, we're working with the planning, we're working with Mayor Green, and trying to get this project across the finish line. And just because of the size of it all, it has been quite a challenge for the residents to take on their own. The community mainly serves very low and very moderate income households. Most of them are on fixed incomes or have a very seasonal income stream. A lot of the homes are qualified as very low income or low income per AMI levels. And these are very recent numbers as of this year. And we have a lot of active community partnerships with the community. They've moved forward in various different ways. They had a weatherization project at the School of Mines that proved to reduce their costs of energy and living by 50% in their utility bills. And they continue having that partnership with them to further improve the rest of the homes in the community. They also have partnerships with LCBAG, which are a wonderful organization here locally in Leadville. That provide a lot of support in outreach resources, being on the ground with them when it's needed, organizing community events. So overall, they do have a lot of cohesion and support in the area for it. So a little bit about the project, and this is very high level because we know it's a lot for a 10-minute presentation, but their sewer system, their water system is completely in need of replacement at this point. There's a lot of system failures, repairs, and issues with access to water, health and safety risks from this system that call for replacement as soon as possible. We have gotten through preliminary design with their engineer. We have brought in different contractors to do surveys, evaluations, and reports. And coordination with the city has been underway for more, I have no idea, maybe around 2 years now. I'm trying to figure out the best way to move forward with this project. Right now, we're trying to evaluate whether or not phased approach will be more successful in potentially doing the water system first and then replacing sewer just because of funding, or maybe doing a portion of the park, like a block of the park and moving on to a second portion, just because of that funding gap. But our overall goal is to ensure that the community can have long-term reliable infrastructure that's connected to the city systems and that can be serviced regularly and maintained consistently. I know this is very small. So this is the representative of the current water lines. The solid lines are what we believe exists, and the dotted lines are all the changes that we want to make and connect the current homes to. There's a lot of zigzagging through the park in the system. It's not super well laid out, and the hope is to make the connections from the homes to the main lines a little bit more direct and easy to service. And then this is the same except for the sewer system. this is even smaller to see, but that very long dotted line is actually crossing from 12th across Poplar, which is one of the biggest cost constraints that we run into because the sewer main does not extend all the way across to be able to connect the top row of homes successfully to the sewer line. This is something we didn't anticipate it and has come with a very, very high price tag. And mainly why we're here today is because we know affordable housing matters to Leadville, especially maintaining what affordable housing already exists, really matters to the city and to the county. And it's really going to prevent any additional cost burdens that the residents already have from being passed on to residents. While they have saved for this, they've tried to put away money for this project, it still has surpassed any estimate that they could have thought would have come their way. But this is also going to address infrastructure that's not only just private property, but it's going to be tied to the municipal systems. And it's going to hopefully support the long-term viability of an existing community without having to put in a new affordable development. I'll pass it off to Ben to talk about funding.
So Francesca does a great job managing all this. I step in little ways, one of which is looking at how this project gets funded. So this is just a quick glance at our estimates. We had early estimates of probable cost from an engineer about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Those came in at about $1 million, and our most recent estimate from contractor is just under 4 million. So unfortunately, engineers' estimates were low, plus costs have increased, and it's a big and complicated project. So of that, we think we have about $800,000 of it secured. Those secured in the form of construction loan, and then the cooperative has reserves that they contribute to on a monthly basis. Those have been built up over the last 5 or so years. So they do have funds that have been allocated towards cooperative infrastructure that we're bringing into the budget. And what we have pending right now are a Prop 123 infrastructure application. So working with the Department of Housing at the state level to apply for that. We also just submitted a congressionally directed spending request. Fingers crossed that that has a chance. Huge shout out to a lot of people who took the time to put that together in about 3 days. That has, hopefully it has legs. And then we also have an ask in with the Colorado Water Conservation Board. They potentially have funding, also potentially low interest financing that could be possible. That leaves us with roughly a $2.9 million gap, and that's what we're trying to solve for right now. I did want to note that the cooperative has voted to increase their rents to accommodate that construction loan, and that's about a $200 rent increase, which is a 40% increase to their rent. So I think it's important for our model only works when residents engage and take on some of the burden. I think it's important to document that that's a decision that's already been made and voted on. So, and next steps, looking for funding opportunities. Like I just mentioned, if there are, I don't think we want to leave a stone unturned here. So if there are opportunities that you're aware of, we would love to hear about them. We want to make sure this aligns with local priorities here. And we also would love to hear any local contractor contacts. We had an incredibly helpful conversation with Joshua Miller with Leadville Sanitation this morning. He immediately connected us with a couple people locally who we think can help us out here. If there is anyone in addition to that, we would love to hear that. And we also would love to keep those dollars spent here locally. We can look in the Front Range as much as we want and bring somebody up here, but they're very expensive. They're very hard to find. And we haven't had a ton of success so far. So I think that's all we had. We've got Christian here to talk a little bit about.
Hey, y'all. Yeah, nice to see you. I guess. So weird being on this side.
State your name.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm specifically, just to be clear, because I'll be here a little bit later as well, wearing my board member hat as the operations manager for CMU. So I just wanted to speak a little bit about what the troubles are that the residents themselves face. These are ongoing troubles that a lot of them have had even well before the park was purchased by the residents. And for sewage, the biggest one that I heard has to be just a situation where there's a specific home by one of our board members, Cecia, who has for the past 3 to 5 years had to have sewage vacuumed out of the pipes because of how dilapidated the sewage line is underneath, so it's speculated, at least 3 times a year. There's times where they have to come home to smelling just wretched and horrid smells because of how backed up these pipes are. And I know that she's not the only one. She also mentioned for water itself, there is so many issues with water pressure, accessibility to water. We're talking about her having to fill up water in buckets and in pots so that she can cook hours ahead of time. Because if there's too many people using the water when they come back home from work, it's just impossible to actually get water to be able to cook. Not only that, but she has to wake up at 5 in the morning to be able to do her laundry. And she and other residents nearby have to cycle through multiple washing machines because of the water that comes out. And that means expenses that they have to buy a brand new washing machine. Those are expensive purchases. There's also the issue of showering. Well, they can't shower. They literally cannot shower in their home because there is not enough water coming out of their shower that they have to fill up the tub for about 30 minutes before they decide to bathe, and then clean the tub out, and the next person out of the 4 in the family gets to go and shower. So they don't even get to shower properly. They have to literally bathe and fill up the water 30 minutes ahead of time, if they're lucky, 30 minutes ahead of time to be able to just bathe after work. So this is an issue that truly impacts the quality of life of especially the residents who have the least access to the water, but even those who don't. Around the park, there's generally lower water pressure comparative to some of the nearby homes in our community. And just generally speaking, it's something that all of us, as you can see, increasing our rent by 40% in today's economy isn't an easy pill to swallow, but that passed unanimously by people who went, because we understand that we also have to pitch in, and it is that impactful of an issue. So that's part of why we're, kind of exploring all the stones, as they said, and leaving no stone unturned, and why it feels so urgent to us, because it truly impacts the livelihood and the affordability of all these homes at the long run.
One more? Okay, that's it. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Our information is up on the screen. If there's any more context needed for the project, we'd love to chat more. Like Ben said, if there's any more opportunity that we can find, we would love to explore it. So yeah, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have questions for Francesca, Ben, or Christian?
I do. Are those Parkville water and Leadville sanitation systems?
It's a private water and sewer. They connect to the mains for sanitation.
So when
Yeah.
when that community was originally constructed, whoever developed that, put those lines?
I assume.
Can anyone speak to what obligation Parkville and Leadville sanitation have for those repairs versus property owners?
Well, the system itself is the cooperative's responsibility. Everything that's under the cooperative is the cooperative's to take care of.
Okay.
The idea with some of these plans is to make the lines connect more directly to the city sanitation and water districts, to make them more easy to manage, repair, etc. Instead of it running like zigzagging through the park, it connects directly to a city main, and it falls more on the city to maintain than what it falls on the residents right now.
If we can address overall, I think, I might toss it to community development and planning, but generally, your water and sanitation systems have their main lines. And if you've ever owned a home where you have a connection to the main line and there's a leak, the first question is, where is it? Is it in the is it in the sanitation district's line or the water district's line? Or is it in your line that connects to that? If it's in your line that connects to that, it's your responsibility.
Hmm.
So that's, I think, the essence of where they are right now is that it was a private development with lines that connect to the main. But that responsibility still lies with the private development. That,
Yeah,
And you expect that the water pressure and all the issues with the water can be fixed by addressing the
Yes.
connections, yeah.
Most definitely. If not full replacement, partial replacement, we're still kind of in the feasibility stage of finding the best solution for the entire park. Also, what's most manageable funding wise.
And just to add a little bit, Parkville is aware and has worked with us on like Prop 123 consideration. So I got to know about sanitation. Sounds like there's some conversation happening this morning, but Parkville, at the very least, did, support this type of project.
one other question is CNU like a nonprofit, or what is like the legal status of the organization? Or
They're.
It's a cooperative, like as an entity, a co-op.
But it's still it's considered a not for profit, but it's not a nonprofit. So it's still just a C corp. It's a regular business. They do business taxes, et cetera. So they're not nonprofit qualified for any grants or anything like that you could usually look for.
So does the grant seeking have to come through Thistle to help? Is that kind of part of the?
Prop 123 would be routed through Thistle. CBS would be routed through Lake County Community Fund if it does come through. So there's lots of partners.
What was that
involved.
acronym? CNS?
CDS, Congressionally Directed Spending.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
can I just ask, how much was the request for congressionally directed spending?
It was a little over 2 million.
Have you heard anything back about it yet?
No, we don't anticipate hearing anything back until towards the end of the year. Yes.
Was that House or Senate?
Senate.
Senate. Yes. Construction regardless will likely take place next summer. So we're hoping to
Not
get
this
funding together, not this
No.
summer.
Yes.
Just because the funding is not there.
And the other, applications that you have out there, are you expecting to hear any sooner, or is that
Um,
still pretty far?
Yeah, Prop 123 with the Division of Housing, our deadline is May 5th. And so I would hope within the next few months, if that is successful, we would hear back. We're working very closely with them on the application, so fingers crossed.
Other questions? Thank you so much.
Well, yeah, thanks for all the work you're doing.
Of course, thanks, everybody.
Okay, we're going to move on to our third presentation from the Regional Housing Authority. Welcome, Becky. Thank you. I'm Becky Longberg, Executive Director of the Regional Housing Authority. I have two board members in the room, Ida and Christian. And Christian's going to help me do some of this, type in whenever appropriate. And I'm working on my presentation skills here. So I actually use the speaker notes feature on this. So and actually do this here.
And just to clarify, I am now a member of the Regional Housing Authority as the president of the board.
And I forgot to go online here. That's okay. I don't need to be online because you brought it up. Thank you so much for your help. So this is, as I said last time I was here, I would like to share with you what's happening at the Regional Housing Authority a couple times a year. So this is it. Last time I was with you, we had just finished strategic planning, and we had a lot of big ideas, but we hadn't really, the information from that had not really gelled. I hadn't really turned it into tools that were usable. So a very brief history, because most of you already know us. We were established in 2022. Major win was securing funding through 2A. Thank you so much to the city for that big one. And thank you to the people of Leadville and Lake County for overcoming the limitations of Tabor. And
thanks to my current board and previous board members for weathering some of those challenges early on in the Regional Housing Authority. I was not here at that point in time either. So if you'd go on to the next slide, please. What we do for our community is multifaceted. And as we grow, it is going to change. Right now, you may not be seeing a lot of action from us. But as we grow, you're going to see more and more. One of the key things that was expressed to me early on was housing authorities got to be managing deed restrictions. So my board members may not know that, but I'm pretty close to getting that nailed down. And for now, we're going to keep it internal because until we have better than about 250 units in our portfolio, it doesn't make sense to go outside of spreadsheets. We are going to be working with either owner managed rental units that are deed restricted, such as the Rabbit Ears project or Ptarmigan Flats, or as a third party in tenant income certifications for larger projects that need a third party to verify tenant income if it's required by Prop 123 funds, the La Chapa loans or grants.
Or by the deed itself.
Or by the deed itself. And every deed is different, but they all sort of pull from the same menu of options. Let's go ahead and go on to the next slide. So I'm not taking too long. Out of our strategic planning, we came up with these 4 primary goals. Obviously, we are building the airplane while we're flying it. So we are still working on some of these foundational documents and policies. And it is part of our plan to have that pretty well nailed down by the end of this year. So we'll be able to go 1 done.
And what we mean by that is like policies on spending policies, you know, how do we endorse certain projects, letters of supports, really looking at like how it operates similar to you all and how you operate, not only within your bylaws, but what policies and procedures you have. So it really is building the foundation at its very core, something that was kind of skipped over up until this last year. So this truly is our most important part of the year 1 strategy from the strategic plan. And one of the key takeaways was to build that strong foundation so that there is no ambiguity in our processes and it is clear as day for everyone who wants to peep in from the outside. And so our partners like you all and the county and any other potential future partners kind of are aware of how we operate and what avenues to go to whenever they do want to ask for like a letter of support, for example.
Meanwhile, we are launching some programs. We have launched the high density housing infill pilot program and are working with downstream to realize the Rabbit Ears project. That'll be our pilot.
That's similar to a buy down program.
And that was something that Jacob let me know he really wanted to see, so.
Exchanging cash for insurance.
Yeah, and I will say that the idea was not fully mine. Adam Desharm showed up on my doorstep and was like, hey, let's do this thing. And I was like, let's hammer out some details. Brilliant idea. Thank you so much for the city's involvement as far as the expedited process that you guys have worked on all last year. So that's a key facet of it. If you'd like to know more, catch me later. And then goal 3 is strategic communications and outreach. We are still working on the website. We've been facing some challenges, but that's something that's going to be going on forever because we will always be updating it, making it more user-friendly. It's self-explanatory. Let's see. And of course, we want to expand and preserve housing supply. So we will be working on that forever as well.
So just to emphasize specifically for goal number, 2 it was, and goal number 4, when we're talking about projects, the reason why we're not as focused on them in year 1 is so that we can get that foundation built, but also so that we can have time to kind of simmer on what direction we fully want to commit to. We do have some like key ideas that we got from the strategic plan itself. So it's not that we're flying blind this time around. And we do have some ideas of varying from this first pilot working to infill to, you know, more explicit, like applying for Prop 123 funding so that we can work with developers. And even, you know, more long-term projects like how can we work with mobile home communities to potentially have them purchase their mobile homes and keep their communities affordable. So there's a vast scope in any of these projects or strategies to preserve housing that we're looking at. And we're seeing what might fit best for us as we're going along. And the strategic plan has helped to kind of narrow that down as to what that looks like and give us a timeline as to like, what should we be looking at when it comes to developing these projects and hopefully having them more available for partners in the public.
Absolutely. Next slide, please. So we are working on governance, and I do believe that our working IGA has passed from Lori's hands and is now in Matt's hands at the county. So you should be hearing an update on that sometime in the next few months, couple months. Let's be helpful.
Yeah, and I think that the big lift on that is to, we have 2 IGAs, right? So there's
Yeah.
an IGA that created the executive director position, which predated the actual creation of the Regional Housing Authority. So it was a bigger lift to combine those 2, organize it, address some of the things that we have encountered as we've gone on. So I think where we are on that is the city attorney and I have been working on that substantially. And that is over to the county. I'm sure they'll have questions and edits of their own. Then it needs to go to the Regional Housing Authority and their attorney. And then the plan is, once the document is completely redlined to the point that no one can read it, we're all going to sit down and go over them. So I do think it's making good progress on that. And it'll be nice to have all the provisions in one place. And I know Ms. Oliver will appreciate that it's finally off of her list.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely appreciate the generosity of both the city and the county in working with outdated documents, basically on good faith for this past year. So thank you very much.
So part of our strategy, of course, part of the foundation building is financials. That's multifaceted, both handling our internal financials and making sure that we have the proper people overseeing the board, being able to oversee the financial process, being able to present to partners such as y'all in terms of what our finances are, and as well as being able to expand our financial stability. Obviously, we're very grateful that you all as partners have supported the Regional Housing Authority, not only through the 2A funds, but some of the funding mechanisms that passed earlier in the PUD processes. So all those avenues are, of course, very helpful for the Regional Housing Authority. And of course, eventually we're going to be considering how can we make money, whether it be through fees or fees for service, or, you know, various different initiatives that we might be able to look into. We really want to make sure that we're not leaving any stone unturned, because we know it's not just a burden that the city should be facing, but also that we should be trying to invest in ourselves and make sure that we have the financial stability long term.
And in the long term topic, some of what I have encountered has been some cleanup. So this year I had planned to do to apply for an exemption of audit, which would be normal for an organization of our size, and we definitely qualified for. But in doing that, I discovered that that had not been done for 24, 23, or 22. So lucky me, I got through 4 years in the time that I had allocated for 1 year, and it's done. So, so we really are still kind of cleaning up some things. It's a learning process, and we're growing up. Next slide, please.
You can say move.
Oh, sorry, we're on goal two, sorry. I wasn't caught up again. So we are launching, some core programs, deed restriction management. There are not very many deeds yet. I built a framework. I'm gonna bring this to our policy committee. We've created several, committees lately to do some work. I'll bring that to our policy committee, and, we will really think it through together. 2 brains are better than 1, 4 brains are better than 2, kind of an idea, and make sure that we're covering everything. And so right now, we're really entering new deeds into it. There hasn't been much in the way of management at this point. We're also creating development tools, such as a special limited partnership, which will be on our agenda next week. And really preparing ourselves for, with clean data, clear data, building our resume, so to speak, for grant readiness, so that we're ready to apply when those opportunities come up. And we're building an ambassador network, so a lot of them are in the room tonight. Let's go to goal 3. So we are launching a new website that has been in the works since I started here. And hope to do that soft launch next week. We will, with the committee, we'll also develop a communications plan. We'll come up with a calendar of how we want to share information throughout the year. And, this is kind of a cornerstone of our communications plan, is to integrate the housing needs tracker, to really show on a graph what our commitments to Prop 123 are, where we're at in those commitments. And if we'll go to goal 4, and the page after goal 4 actually shows us the housing needs tracker as of first. So goal 4 is expanding and preserving housing supply. We don't have a huge focus on that just yet, but there are some things in progress. Expanding and preserving preservation efforts. Some of that is going to happen through partners such as Chaffee Housing Trust. Some of that will happen through our organization. And we definitely have the goal of helping in any way that we can owners of mobile home parks, the resident owners of mobile home parks. So obviously, yes, we'll write a letter of support, but we would also like to partner in applying for loans and grants, if it's appropriate. If it's something that we can do, we have the mission to do so. New production, obviously supporting new developments that are focused on anything below 120 AMI. And would like to refine and find a way to fully fund the high density housing infill program. Chapin, did you share that with city council?
No.
Okay. I might mention it now. I didn't allocate a lot of time because I thought you might already know about it, but let's circle back if we need to.
Yeah, and what you'll notice a theme is a lot of this is being created in how we do infrastructure. It doesn't look anything like it does in the Front Range. We're not talking about constructing a bunch of units all at once and really like large high density builds all at once. Though those do exist, and those are in the works. It is also focused on infill. It's focused on things that are one community project has been working towards in our comprehensive plan. We really wanted to take the comprehensive plan as like a guiding document, even though it's not quite done, just taking those conversations that have happened as a guiding document as to what it is that we're investing in and what it is that we're trying to make sure that we're working on. So you'll notice some of the projects that we're really trying to emphasize are explicitly in locations that make sense for our community, such as infill. And of course, supporting existing housing is a huge part of being able to keep affordable housing. We're never going to be able to build our way out of it, even if we were Denver, but much less in a mountain community like Lake County and Leadville, because at the end of the day, it just isn't the physical space to, nor is there the money, unfortunately. So we are trying to be creative as how do we support, you know, our ongoing and our current existing affordable housing, such as our mobile home parks that are naturally occurring affordable housing, or even current homeowners to potentially have these types of projects. So we really are trying to be creative of what it means to preserve housing supply and keep it affordable.
Yeah, so high density housing infill program is really about things like Ptarmigan Flats and Raveners, and possibly a garage ADU type situation. So anything from ADU to 4 units. And then CNU is a perfect example.
And another example that you all actually worked with, that we worked with a little bit, would be the Bellcrest development.
Oh, that's turning. That's
That's what we call it, yes.
cool.
Yeah, we get called it by the, busy company and then they get in. Let's see, so goal 4, expanding, let's move on to the next slide. And this is the housing needs tracker updated on, I actually did that on the 1st, but I thought it would be a cool April Fool's joke, so it's 2nd. But, and I couldn't get my colors to work properly. Green is not go in this
Green is
instant. Green should be red. But currently red, yellow, and blue, of which Bellcrest is not quite yet. Bellcrest Ptarmigan Flats is not yet blue, but will be, are the ones that are in the pipeline right now. And green is the need according to the housing needs assessment that was completed in 22.
Are those rentals or for sale or both?
Sorry, 24.
Using 22 data.
These are rentals and ownership. Those are combined.
Well, that's a good point that we might want to revisit.
I do have it broken out, but I thought I'd just put it up here. And next time I will, and on the website, we'll have rentals and ownership broken out separately.
And really, this is a tool that serves multiple purposes. One, it helps us describe and communicate to the community once we fix the colors, what the need is, right, where we're at, and what also it helps us as both elected to city council, county commissioners, and the regional housing authority stay true to our goals and aspirations and what it is needed in our housing needs assessment. So this will be updated as new housing needs assessments happen. As those are updated with data, we'll be able to reflect that in these data points to be able to use it to hold us accountable and to communicate to the community as to what the need is.
Yeah, definitely want to be delivering for the community. Along the Prop 1, 2, 3 commitments line, the Housing Authority is partnering with the county to do a housing needs update this year. That should be completed around the end of the year, beginning of next year. So we'll have new goals here. And then we are committed to 3% annual increase ongoing. The one thing that this jurisdiction has done, check completed, is the expedited review process. The county is nearing completion on that.
Good job.
Good job. That's a win. Next slide, please. Here's more about housing infill. I couldn't come up with a good acronym, a name that was a good hip. I mean, come on. Yeah. It's still a pilot, so if anybody comes up with a better name for this, that has a great catchy acronym, please say so. Maybe I'll go back to Adam for that. So the purpose is for infill. This is within city limits or city adjacent. It's got to be within Parkville and sanitation district, because
it's not just the housing authority. It also includes the jurisdiction, depending on where the property is located. And, both sanitation, well, hopefully sanitation, but definitely Parkville. And Parkville is giving a tap fee reduction. And they are allowing people to not start paying that fee until the water is actually turned on. Not at the time that it's ready to be turned on, but the time that it's actually turned on, which can be months, which can be tens of thousands of dollars. So that's a savings. It does support ADU through quadplex. It is infill only, so it's got to be within these service areas, and deed restricted 60 to 120, long-term or ownership only, long-term rental or ownership only. So it's really hitting workforce, the wide range of workforce. There are some flexible incentives. It's a menu, it's an a la carte menu. So depending on the project, they'll be able to choose which things that they want to engage with. C4 has expressed that they would also like to be a part of this with energy efficiency, and they have access to some grants that they would like to work with builders, developers, owners on that. So they would actually engage with folks as well. City has included some fee waivers in addition to this that I did review. The reality is that this is a gap closer. It's not a large subsidy. The housing authority at this point is saying $10,000 per door. So for Ravadiers, who is our pilot grantee, they are getting 40 grand. That's not a lot of money, but it's no strings attached after the deed restriction has been filed. So once that deed restriction is there, they can use it for wherever they need the money to make the things happen. Because we know that during building, there's things that show up unexpectedly. We don't want to add any more strings than we have to.
And then, part of why we're kind of working in that area is to try to capture, to the extent that there is, those developers or builders who might be interested in giving back to the community, be willing to work with us, not necessarily to line their pockets, but really to provide a service to the community. And it is a service that they would be providing and foregoing some more expensive housing that they could build and make more of a buck out of it. So it is a multi-beneficial in that sense, and it is a service that, currently Justin is gracefully applying, and we are very thankful to find those partnerships that do exist, especially in a small community like this.
Of the workforce being employed.
Is that funding pretty much coming from the accommodations tax funding, or are there other funding sources?
You nailed it right on the head. So yes, this initial pilot is directly from the 2A funds. And so that's 40 grand.
Mhm.
Our intent though is to find future sources of funding for that. I've got an idea to turn it into something that could be a refilling bucket. It would take a long time, but hopefully a refilling bucket.
Mhm.
But that hasn't been fleshed out yet.
And for context, generally, this is a more novel idea in Colorado. This isn't something that's like tried and true that a bunch of other regional housing authorities are doing. When we talk to, oh my God, yeah, they expressed that, she expressed that this is a relatively new idea in the state of Colorado that hasn't been tried. So it's an opportunity both for us and hopefully for the state to look at this as a way to potentially go forward. So we'll be trying to leverage that novelty and in any way that we can to secure funding.
Yeah.
Cool.
Who knows? We might be speaking about this at Housing Colorado in a couple of years. Once we get proof of concept and find some more funding. So I think it's a cool idea. Thank you to Adam for having the idea and Justin for being the guinea pig. Let's go to the next slide. One of the other things that housing authorities are charged with is compliance and stewardship. It is our job to make sure that the money that is coming from the public coffers, thank you so much to the people of Leadville, is being well spent. that we are being transparent about those expenses, those expenditures, and that we are good stewards in the long run of the people's contribution. So we will be doing certifications of potential tenants and home buyers and reporting on that, because there's usually an annual report that's due with that. And we'll be ensuring the appropriate use of taxpayer funds. And let's go to the next slide. So this is just a snapshot, and I maybe should have broken it out onto two slides. There's a left and a right. So you've got revenues by source with our budget and our actual as of April 1st, our total revenue with our budget and actual, and our total expenses on the left. And you can see that we haven't spent very much of it yet, partly because the county has not yet billed us for my pay this year. And it's correct, I ran it by Richie, my treasurer. And then on the right, transfers impact reserve. This was the creative part of the budget that I brought to this city council last year and said, so all this 2A money, we're not going to just put it into staff. We're also going to, it's not a lot of money. You can see our total revenues are 284. About 100 of that is kind of going to me. $185,000 does not build a house. It doesn't build an ADU anymore. So how can we use the 2A funds for most impact? And the big idea was then to have, okay, so one of the things that we do need to do is we have to build our operating reserve and contingency. State law requires it. So there's money every year, a little bit of money will go into that. And then we're going to break it up into programs, an affordable home ownership program. Affordable home ownership has not been built yet. Programs, it's not fully fleshed out yet. We've got some ideas. But you can see there's no expenses yet there. Matching for grants and loans. Next time I report to you, there will be a $15,000 spent there because we were awarded in conjunction with Full Circle, CHAPA Direct Effect grant. They were awarded $15,000. We were the co-applicant, so the money didn't come to us, it went to Full Circle, and we'll be matching that as soon as I write the check. We'll go over there. So $15,000, that means I don't have to run the program. Full Circle, who's already doing an excellent job of emergency housing services, will be running that program. They've got the staff, they've got the connections, they've already built the wheel. We'll just give them some more money to keep doing it. And that then makes that direct effect award more impactful. And then the opportunity is the opportunity bucket is where the 40 grand for the Hip Ravagers project is coming out of. So the intent is that those transfers impact reserve buckets will grow, and then they'll get spent down, and then they'll grow with 2A funds, and then they'll get spent down. So our position, we've got money in the bank. And then our last slide is looking ahead. We're going to use the housing needs tracker and the housing needs assessment and the comprehensive plan to guide our future steps, our future action steps. Currently in the pipeline, Rabbit Ears, there's two others that I haven't mentioned. Timber Ranch is in the county. That'll be 10 affordable home ownership opportunities. And those will be deed restricted at 140. So all the housing authority is really going to be doing for that is managing the deed. The developer will take care of almost everything. And then in phase 3 of the rail yard, tributary development out of BV came to us and said, hey, what do you guys think about doing some affordable housing on phase 3? They're gonna be buying that 11-acre plot from Fading West. And they're like, why not do a land bank grant for some of it and we could build apartments? Well, they said, what do you need? Affordable homes? And I was like, well, yes, but not for ownership. We need rentals. We desperately need rentals from 60 to 100% AMI. And they said, we can do that. So they came up with a plan for a 3-story, and it's still in the works. So there's opportunity for change. The idea is 75 units from 60 to 100% AMI. 1, 2, 3 bedroom. The first floor would be entirely ADA accessible. Parking for every apartment, plenty of parking, drainage. What's that? You need someone to actually live there? It'd be so exciting. It's in the idea phase. We did submit a letter of interest for land banking and we were invited to apply. That doesn't guarantee that we will get that. But we're in the application process right now. And if our application is not accepted, there's more than one way to peel an orange. So let's try again. We've got a developer who's interested in working with us.
And just clarify, phase 3 of the rail yard does not mean that it is in whatsoever connected to the rail yard. I know that there's a lot of thoughts and feelings about rail yard process.
Oh, phase
Yeah, and it's just bad naming. It's actually its own entire project. So this isn't connected to the head or any way to phase 1 or 2.
Maybe Mr. Ducharme can come up with another acronym for that.
Another as well. I'd like them to come up with a name that's, related to railroads, but not rail yard.
Who do you apply for land banking funds?
And the last thing that we wanted to talk about is potentially with you all on creating a automated flow for the 2A funds to the Regional Housing Authority, similar to what you all already have established to the tourism board. We're getting to the point to where having a good idea of our financials and being able to work within them would be very helpful to be able to understand what type of projects we want to work in, also just fulfill our contingency and to be able to wrap our heads around what are we working with, what are we seeing, what can we expect, and build ourselves around that early on. I know that I, both on council and the Regional Housing Authority, did not feel comfortable with that idea for good reason, but I think we're really getting at a point where we are established, we're setting a solid foundation, and I do feel a lot more comfortable now that we have processes in place. We've addressed our audits. We've gone through all the processes that we've needed to, and we'll, continue to develop all of our processes. But it feels like it's the right moment to potentially have these conversations of what does that type of relationship look like with the city and the funding source looks like with the city. So I'd be happy to meet with you all. I'm sure Becky would love to join us. If any of you individually have questions or thoughts about that, to have a conversation about this, or to potentially have a centralized conversation about this at a council meeting.
And I didn't put this in here, but we also had talked previously, or at our November meeting, or when I appeared in November, about the unspent 2A funds. And that money is still in your capable custody. And if you so chose, we're now having a process for how those 2A funds would be well spent.
How much is that?
I think last year we had, Chris and I had a long, yeah.
How long was that conversation?
yeah. It's somewhere in the upper 200s.
Yeah.
In the 200 to 300 range.
So when, I can hear my optimism, when the 75 apartment units are built, if, I guess, would be safer to say, but when those are built, by then, we would like to have a property management arm of the housing authority. The county is asking us to do this because they have some rentals that are currently being managed by Jackie, and there will be some changes occurring over the next year or so, and the county does not want to get into property management. So it's something that is on our radar sooner or later. Just so that you guys know that that's gonna happen at some point.
And I know y'all are still owners of 809 Spruce, so as that develops, or if that develops, we would be interested in having conversations about what a partnership might look like as well.
And I know I've run over my time. Thank you for asking questions during it. Any other questions?
Mayor, can I make one comment on funding?
Please.
Just, I guess it's really more of a comment than a question, but just for the benefit of council. We have already started to set up a potential funding stream for the Regional Housing Authority in addition to the 2A fund, which would be the RETA, the Real Estate Transfer Assessment. We started that with the development agreement process. We don't have any properties that are currently subject to that. But we've kind of set up a model that we would be incorporating into some code amendments that you have coming up later this year regarding annexation policies, et cetera. And there are, I believe there's already in the county, there's some developments that would be subject to a write-up also. Yeah.
Can you just, for the benefit of the group, explain what a real estate transfer assessment is?
Yes, yeah, thank you. And so essentially what that does is, and there are terms that can be negotiated, but it would be an assessment, so money that a property owner pays at the time a property is sold. So, and it can be it's usually on the buyer. And that can be exempted from the initial purchase, so it's no skin off the developer's back when they're selling their first house. But subsequent transfers of ownership at the time of closing, the buyer would pay, and it's usually in the range of 1% or 4% real estate transfer assessment. And then that assessment goes to the Regional Housing Authority. So it creates a long-term funding stream.
And that's already in place in the Angel View
Yeah.
Subdivision in Twin Lakes, or near Twin Lakes.
And it's a handy, we worked on this a lot. So the situation is many communities that had a real estate transfer tax before Tabor was passed can have a real estate transfer tax. That's a substantial portion of income for a community, for, many communities that have that tax. After Tabor, you can't do it. If you didn't have it before, you can't have it. We didn't have it, so we can't do a tax. So that precludes that source of revenue. What we could do is a real estate transfer assessment, and this is a bargain for agreement. So if you remember the Leadville 7 development that they wanted to annex into the city, we don't have to do that. We don't have to agree to an annexation, but we say, as one of the terms for working on that, getting that annexation, we want there to be a real estate transfer assessment on every piece of property out there. So every time it changes hands, we would receive that income. So it's a super handy tool. Most developers don't object to it because they don't pay it. It gets paid every time the property is transferred. So it's a really handy tool. And what you did do is you put that into your code. If you remember, when you put in the code where we can work on development agreements, we put one of the chips that we can bargain for is a real estate transfer assessment. So using that tool, this is why those code amendments are great. Using that tool, it could be super handy for the Regional Housing Authority to get that revenue. And the more bargain for agreements that you have with that, the more revenue the Regional Housing Authority can see.
Any questions? I know we took a while.
I'm just like blown away by how much you've accomplished with the board and Becky in the last,
With the board.
Yeah. What is that, 9 months or something? It's really remarkable.
Yeah, like I have to say, having been on the board since its inception, it has been a real pleasure to have Becky work with us and be able to gear us towards our future as a Regional Housing Authority, to be able to provide affordable housing for all of our community members and long-term residents such as myself. So really proud of the work that we've done, and I think we're heading towards the right direction for sure.
Someday in my future, I would like to see my working board transfer to a governing board.
So would I.
Because I do lead on a lot.
Long
Thank
term.
you both so very much.
Yeah, I look forward to talking to you in October.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. I think we need to level up here, trying to keep up with them. Let's move on to our action items. First on our action items is a temporary use permit for All About Leadville 2026. I see our permit technician. Andrew.
Hello.
Hello. Can you walk us through this?
Yes, of course. I'm trying to share my screen real fast just to bring up a nice map. So what I have before you here today is a temporary use permit for a brand new event. So the CCF does start on page 7 of the packet if you would like to follow along. And I just want to make sure, Council and Madam Mayor, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, my CCF starts on page 7. Typically an event of this scope would be on the consent agenda for you, but because this is a brand new event, I wanted to provide our wonderful applicants the opportunity to say hi and to go over it with council. So what I have before you here is a brand new race in conjunction with Leadville Main Street's All About Leadville event, which I believe you had a presentation on a few meetings ago, potentially. So on page 9, we do have the findings and conditions. Staff has found that an event like this does meet all of our conditions for a temporary use permit. We do have the condition on that page that the insurance is updated. I did talk with the applicant, and we do have that insurance certificate. It was sent to me today, but I have not had time to review that. So that condition is still on this TUP, but it has been sent over to me. So we do also have the operations plan on page 16. I will say there is a small difference between the application and the ops plan. Between the time when I wrote the CCF and when the ops plan was given to me, the starting location of the race has changed. So it is no longer starting at Zeitz Park. It is actually starting with conjunction with Lifetime. It is starting at 6th and Poplar at those lots there. And then as you can see on the screen, we have a map of the event race. There will also be a children's race with a bit of a smaller scope. And I can't see necessarily in that room, but I do believe the applicants, Christine and Madeline, are in the room. So, Council, I will turn it over to you. Pretty straightforward. If you have any questions for staff or for the applicants, I'm happy to answer anything.
I'm happy to give an overview too, if that's helpful.
Sure, please.
So my name is Madeline Moyer. I'm the director of Pasadena Run Club. We're an entity that's been operating in town for a little over, it's been about 3.5 years, every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. at pastime, if anyone is so inclined to join us. We really started with the intention of filling the gap in a very storied running community of something a little bit more social and low key. If you can imagine joining something like Black Cloud Run Club, or almost anyone who has lived in Leadville for a long time on a run, is a pretty intimidating idea. When Main Street came to us and requested, how do we do an anchor event? Would Pastime be willing to host a run? We were pretty big emphatic yes. because one of our core pillars and values is to be a steward of the town, the environment, our trails. So as a group, it's something really core to not just who we are, but also how we operate. I know, Mitch, you've been, so you can speak a little to this, but the real goal here is how do we create an environment where we're bringing in people who have a tie to the running community in Leadville, people who are county adjacent, who have big running goals, which we know people in Summit and in Chaffey County are very enthusiastic about running as they're on Leadville. And then also anyone in the Front Range. So trying to get up second homeowners and folks who might have big running goals that look or feel like a lifetime race or something like that in their future race calendar, and get them to join us for that economic development on Harrison on Main Street. Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the like detailed pieces? We are going to start and stop in the like expo parking lot. I think it's the best way to frame it, but I'll let you take over like route and anything else.
Yeah, we'll be quick about this. So we wanted to make it as inviting of an event as possible without making huge impacts, especially on Harrison. So we were able to talk to the folks at Lifetime. They allowed us to use that lot. As you can see, we're going to head up basically to Alder, turn right, go up Fifth, run up and around Iron Hill, and then come back down 7th and stop at the exact same location. We have contacted Apex, and they're going to provide some porta potties. So we'll have 3 additional porta potties in the lot just to help with any additional folks that are there. We're going to have an aid station out on the course as well. It would anticipate it would take somebody about an hour, hour and a half to complete it. So people aren't going to be out there all day, but we will have some water out there just in case it's a hot day.
SAR has been notified.
Correct. SAR's been notified just so that they're on the same page, and in case anything came up, they would be aware of where everybody's going to be. Andrew didn't show the map of what the kids race is, but it's basically just going to run around the railroad, and it'll be like half mile, right? Just start in the same location, just allow kids to kind of run around. We will have volunteers on course for the kids in the 10K, just to make sure people don't get lost and go on some county road they're not supposed to. We'll have everything flagged and then picked up the next day as well.
Yep. We already have volunteers who like actively reached out to us through Unplugged to say we would like to go as a volunteer for course marking and course sweeping, as well as Cloud City Wheelers have actually volunteered to do a lot of stuff with us too. So we're trying to do everything we can to be as proactive and low impact and run a really tight operation, even though it's probably going to be small.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic.
Thank you so
Questions?
much.
Yeah, thank
Questions for the
you.
applicant?
How many
Questions?
helicopters were
That's a great question. We should contact like the Air Force or something and see if we can do a flyover. I also want to thank Andrew for all of his help in helping us submit, and Christine, who's been like awesome in facilitating us getting familiar with the process. Mike and I, at least me, I'm new at this. We've just been running an Instagram account and showing up every Wednesday. So thank you.
Cool idea.
Thank you.
We are still gonna use that part for the party.
Yes.
So we have an alcohol
Nice.
application with Ally, and then obviously there's some permit for the county as well, because it's county road, so.
Yeah.
I think we've checked all the boxes.
Will you have a pop-up?
We will
Thing in
have
your
a
back.
pop-up with food and with beer, so. And then there's some other moving parts to the event, I think you're probably familiar with, there's a walk and there's maybe a bike ride I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard about the bike ride end to end, but that was part of why we're not doing like food and a party in that parking lot, is to drive traffic back to Harrison. All the timing and everything, we've collaborated with the Main Street organization to ensure like the race is going to start early enough that it's a little uncomfortable for people to maybe they should stay the night before kind of thing. Hopefully we're going to have businesses out like an hour, hour and a half after people finish to like catch runners and have the time between events, because the kids are free for folks to regroup as a family, have some breakfast, get the kids out on the race, and then hopefully have lunch before maybe they head home in the car. So everything's very intentionally designed around how do we drive dollars and traffic back to the city.
Great.
Sounds great.
Other questions about the TUP specifically? No, I would entertain a motion.
Thomas moves the city council approve the temporary use permit application for All About Leadville 2026 with the attached findings and conditions.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Grant,
Councilmember Edwards,
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas,
Yes.
Councilmember Carey,
Yes.
Councilmember Dolan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark,
Yes.
and Mayor Green.
Yes. We can't wait.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, that's it.
It should be fun. Hopefully we can make it kind of an annual thing if it's successful. and like, bring some people along.
Are you
Love that.
expecting anybody from council to?
All of you.
I,
Whole
Concept
category.
of the pastime run club.
See you at the party.
Yes, that's right.
just so you know, I will get with you tomorrow on the details of that acceptance. Have a good night.
Thanks, Andrew.
I run with the kids.
Yeah, I might run with the kids. That might actually be pushing it a little too far.
Or you could have added as a condition of approval in your own category.
Yeah,
The
that would be
elected
Dana
officials
standing on a street
category.
corner looking enthusiastic. Okay, let's move on to action item B. This is resolution number 14, series of 2026. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Leadville making community contributions. We have 4 requests in this first cycle of 2026 from Lake County High School, Leadville Ski Joring, the Heart of Colorado Rural Philanthropy Days, I'm so sorry, there's 5. Lyric Theater of Leadville and the Leadville Historic Preservation Commission in partnership with the Herald Democrat and Leadville Main Street Program and the Lake County Public Library. So before we talk about these and, consider these, I think we have 2 city council members who indicated that they would recuse due to their involvement with one or a couple of these these groups. Feel free to use my office.
Thank you.
Who's out of here?
I'm out of here. I'm out of here.
Okay.
Rebecca has a connection with the Leadville or the Historic Preservation Commission request, and Councilmember Carey has a connection with Lyric Theater. There are no snacks in my office, but there are
Are
tea
you
bags.
asking for someone to bring you a snack hand up?
I.
Hi.
We can arrange that.
If you would let
Run to the gas
remind
station.
me to call them back. Okay, so sometimes this is really easy and sometimes this is a little more difficult. The request this year asked a total to $1,200, I believe. So we're oversubscribed. Actually, let me run this. I thought we were oversubscribed by about $1,500.
11.5, so.
11.5, yeah. So we are oversubscribed by $1,500. And so we do need to do some discussion over how to distribute these funds. I think you all have each application from each organization.
I have a proposal.
Yes,
I propose we fund them all except Lyric Theater would be at 500 instead of their full ask. My reason being, is the Lyric Theater event at the Tabor Opera House.
yes.
I feel like the city has contributed quite a lot to the Tabor Opera House, such as buying the building and, the ongoing contributions to Tabor Opera House. So I feel like we're already contributing a lot there. I love everything Lyric Theater does, so it's no slight against their productions or anything. I think it's awesome. I've always really loved that. It just feels like of these asks, we're already kind of making contributions there. So it's just one proposal as a way to reconcile the ask with the amount. Or I'd also be open to, shaving little bits of other things to fund that more too, but just wanted to put that proposal forward.
Are they getting the Opera House for free or low cost or?
Good question.
I'm assuming.
Anybody know?
Andrew, are you still on? He left. You would know. I don't know. I do know that some members of the Lyric Theater, the Lyric Theater is very tightly aligned with the Tabor Opera House.
It is free, like the tickets are free. It's not like, that's what it said in their application. So my guess is they would maybe not be paying for theater space, but
Well, what I
I'm
would
not sure.
like to consider is the Lake County High School, or the Lake County High School, and the Leadville Historic Preservation Commission requests are kind of timely because the Frozen musical is, in May. And, I think the Historic Preservation Commission would like to get on with the improvements to their, walking tour, which seems to have been very successful, as soon as possible. The ski join, and I also think Heart of Colorado Rural Philanthropy Days, if you guys have never been to one of those, it's an incredible opportunity for local nonprofits to link up with funders and to link up with other nonprofits. And there's just a lot of really good networking that goes on there, and some good opportunities, introduction to opportunities for funding. That I suspect, even though that event happens in October, that a lot of the arrangements and the things that they indicated they wanted to use the funds for would come perhaps due before our next cycle. But Leadville Ski Join and Lyric Theater could potentially submit again for, like, I know Leadville Ski Join last year split up the request that they had, and I believe that they intend to do so again this year. Lyric Theater could return in September and say, here's our situation. Could we apply for some more? So I feel comfortable with your request, or with your suggestion. What I'd like to do, I'd like to hear from Councilmember Edwards.
I'm
Okay.
just weighing in to support Cisco's proposal. I think that makes good sense, and then does give them time to come back in the fall. Thank you.
Work it out.
I have a couple of general questions, if I can ask, since this all happened before I got on council. I'm familiar with the program. I'm familiar with the program that we ran when I was somewhere else. So, do we reach out to other nonprofits, or do we just kind of assume that they will know when our program is running?
So this program grew out of the city has long made contributions to just local organizations.
Right.
In the past, it was kind of we often had like this much money set aside to distribute for community contributions. And we would do it on a, first come, first serve kind of basis. And so we would often have multiple requests earlier in the year. We'd be like, these are all great ideas, because there is no shortage of really valid requests that help our community or enrich our community. The trouble that we were noticing is that, or then around about September, when other groups and especially nonprofits were starting to complete their budgets and would find a gap that in their operations, then they would show up and we would be nearly out of funds. So this sort of twice a year splitting up the funds was our solution to that first come, first serve, and just an attempt to let different groups, align with when their need would arise. We have, this is relatively new. Last year was our first year of it. So we're still kind of ironing out some kinks. There is a pretty good awareness of this. And so I get outreach throughout the year. But we are doing, like this time we actually advertise on Facebook. We're going to make the form available on the website and, just try to make this more.
Did you say we did that for this round?
This round was on Facebook.
How else was it marketed?
I don't know. I know it appeared on the city's website, or excuse me, on the city's Facebook page. Do you know?
I believe I made a request that there be a blurb in the newsletter And I'm not sure if that blurb got written
I-
into the
I
news.
wrote that blurb, and submitted it.
So this is one of the things where, you know, increased transparency and communication from the city is helpful. I think, you know, I think one of the things I requested a while back was that we put all these forms on the website and have a section. That was in the point in time where we held off on doing that because of ADA compliance issues with putting things on the website. So I do think, to Councilmember Dolan's point, I think, you know, it should be that we have a standardized place to put these, and there should be you know, sort of a call put out. I don't think the way it was previously is people would just come forward. And I think we can do a better job of putting that out there because it doesn't, it really wouldn't be fair if we didn't do some type of a call. So I think in this case, it's either in the newsletter and social media or on social media. But I had supported, but we held off on putting it on our website so it could be available. You know, right now you have to contact the mayor for the forms. I think it would be better if we had it all accessible on our website.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I distributed a number of forms more than, you know, actually submitted requests.
I think just two more questions.
Yes, please.
So we have five applications before us. Were there more than five and we pared them down, or there was just five?
Just 5.
Okay.
Like I said, and I sent out the forms to several other organizations who had requested, but,
So I think we kind of answered my other question was, what is the process that's in place to apply for these funds? But I think I would understand that. So,
absolutely entertain, you know, like outside of the
Right,
meeting, suggestions for ironing out more of the kinks and making this a more, just a tighter process.
yeah, because when I got this, I was like, okay, this is great. And
Yeah.
I figured that we had gone through this before we got on council, but I was kind of surprised that there wasn't some names that I thought would be in this process. So if they didn't apply, then, okay.
I felt similarly, was a little surprised about who I didn't see there.
Right, exactly. I guess that being said, I don't totally disagree with your thought process, Cisco, but and I know it's important, but the Colorado Rural Philanthropy Days, they kind of stood out since they requested the most. And I would rather see us not take everything from one group and kind of pare it down a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
I think I can add something to that
Okay.
a little bit. I mean, you know, first of all, this, the rural philanthropy, I'm having a real hard time saying
Those guys.
philanthropy today. Those guys, like, this is sort of a, you know, a very rare opportunity to,
Sure.
to be selected, for Leadville to be selected to host this. And it's a big honor, and it's potentially a really huge positive for our nonprofits. So it's not like they are going to be coming back on a regular basis and requesting. The other thing is that the Lyric Theater, like, I had already received all these other ones, and I was like, oh, great, our total is 9,500. Like, we'll push 500 to the next. And then sort of at the 11th hour, Lyric came in and said, can we submit? And I said, yes, we actually have $500 remaining. And so I actually expected them to submit a request for $500, and they, you know, they went big. So, it's not that they did not know that we're up to that. And that, again, I don't want to do the first come, first serve thing all the time, but that was sort of a last minute, can we participate?
When you say last minute, were they in the
Like our,
window or the
yeah,
time?
just
frame?
like.
Okay.
But they were within,
Yeah.
so I feel like it counts.
We're good. Oh, yeah, I don't, I don't want to say, like March 30th is the deadline so that we can have enough time to like get our stuff together for the packet. If somebody comes in March 31st and, I'm usually going to say fine, but everybody was on time. I would like to invite, Mayor Lobby to say a few words because he has a long history of in the city of Leadville with community contributions.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Council. To Cisco's point, I believe that it needs some clarification. And the reason I say that is the Lyric Theater of Leadville is no longer directly associated with the Tabor Opera House. They have been but they are not this year.
Hey, Greg, could you turn off your camera? Your audio is pretty broken up.
You wanted me to turn off the camera, but okay.
Oh, still kind of digital.
Am I still breaking up?
A little bit, but not. Keep going. We'll see where we get.
I will try and speak slowly so my bandwidth isn't overwhelmed. The Lyric Theater of Leadville, and I'll say I'm quite biased on this in this regard, so that should be clear. But the Lyric Theater of Leadville is not associated with the Tabor Opera House, so this is not direct, money donation to the Tabor Opera House. It is allowing the Lyric Theater of Leadville to put on, one of their outstanding events, which they do often for us in the city of Leadville. In this case, they there are considerable expenses associated with what they do for their musicals. So I'm not going to argue one with the other. I just thought that clarification might be useful.
Craig, is Lyric Theater, at least when I spoke with a member of them briefly, would they be planning on submitting a second request, to your knowledge, in September? Is that an option?
Certainly an option, and of course the performances are October 22nd through 24th. I'd have to look at my calendar, but they're late in October, and so the answer is that seems like a possibility to me. Again, not really trying to argue any point here, other than yes, I'm biased, and I wanted to clarify some of the issues in terms of the relationship between the Lyric Theater of Leadville and the house. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. So we have that question answered. Does that change your proposal?
Wait, do we have it answered?
But he said that while they were associated tightly with the Tabor Opera House, they are separate entities.
But the question was, are they paying for the space, I think, which we still don't know, right?
Mayor Lobby, is Lyric Theater paying for the space at the Tabor Opera House for the production?
I'm going to assume, and it's an assumption, that the answer is yes, because every event that takes place in their event schedule, through the summer and into the fall, bears a cost of the Tabor Opera House, and partially because the Tabor Opera House puts a lot of resources in play in order to hold events.
Doesn't really change my argument in the sense that if we have to triage something, it makes sense to me to do that because of the amount that the city has already invested in supporting the Tabor Opera House. But I'm also open to other proposals, like if we want to scratch 500 from philanthropy conference and go 1,000 to Lyric.
That was actually going to be, what about splitting the baby and doing that? You're reading our minds. I think that would not, at least having spoken with Elsa, I don't think that would severely hobble the Rural Philanthropy Day event. And it would be a way of kind of splitting the baby and not leaving Lyric Theater. I think leaving Lyric Theater a little better funded or contributed.
I would feel much more comfortable with not taking everything from Lyric and the RPD. Let's go with that.
Should we scratch a little?
If we took 500 from them, since they have the most ask,
Mhm.
I would feel more comfortable.
I'm also open to like, should we take a little from everywhere or, I mean, I'm,
To achieve. I mean, the city has a really long history of contributing $1,000 to high school musical, for
Okay.
example, like
let's
that's,
call that one set.
that's,
High school
Older
music.
They're
than I
also
am.
the smallest amount to
Yes.
ask, so.
and like I said, I know, I'm certain that Leadville Ski Drawing will return in September to try to, they're trying to split their funding requests. And I personally, you know, I have just been sort of, really pleasantly excited about how the walking tour, how successful it has been and how, some of the ideas for expanding its reach, and its content. Councilmember Edwards.
Yeah, I would second the Historic Preservation Commission is working and has been working for the last couple of years with almost a zero budget. They've done a really, really good job of bringing their own resources to the table. This is one of the few asks that they have of the city, so I would very much support supporting their full ask. Thank you.
So how do people think about Lake County High School, $1,000, Leadville Ski Drawing, $2,500, Heart of Colorado World Philanthropy Days, I got it, $3,000, Lyric Theater of Leadville, $1,000, Leadville Historic Preservation Commission, $2,500.
I felt good with that.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Other questions or comments about this resolution? What'll happen is, we will fill in those amounts, get it signed, and then we'll turn that over to Crystal for distribution of funds. All right. Well, is there any further discussion? Hearing none? Another few of us.
I'm scrolling real quick.
It is on page 21.
Clark moves to approve resolution number 14, series of 2026, a resolution of the city council of the city of Leadville making community contributions.
Second,
Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Dolan,
yes.
Councilmember Grant, Councilmember Thomas, Councilmember Edwards,
Yes.
Councilmember Carey, and Mayor Green.
Yes. All right, thank you for the discussion. Chip and Pete, holler at our two,
Yes.
just, thank you, since you're up. Okay, as soon as we get our other two members back, we can proceed with our last two action items.
We do have Grant online now.
Councilmember Grant, welcome. Please let the record show that Councilmember Grant joined at 7:42.
Can we confirm that? Like, should we do some kind of video check with that? Or,
To confirm it's
That she's-
Councilmember
yeah,
Graham. So,
like anyone could type a name into their,
yeah, I mean, I don't think your current bylaws have any provision that they have to have a camera on. But you-
or a voice, or just a
All right.
attendance.
Hey, Councilmember Grant, are you there? We switch to her tile.
You can go with voice recognition.
Yes, I'm here.
Presence confirmed for all of you conspiracy theorists.
It is not a very far out proposition that someone could just.
You know,
log in.
we just can't be surprised by anything anymore.
So actually, I do think that it really does raise a good point. And that, I'm glad you actually flagged that. Because I do think we are in the midst of rules of order, the entity formerly known as bylaws. But I think that actually, I think that raises a good point.
It's in our draft of the new rules of order that.
I just went to the trash.
Hey, Shannon, can you
I
mute,
shower,
please?
then lift Prosecco.
Councilmember Grant, can you mute, please?
Yeah, so I do think that is something, to think about in the age of technology, right? But yeah, okay, so it is that you would have to have your camera on if you were appearing virtually?
I think that's how we have it,
That-
unless
that
there's
is-
some kind of extenuating.
The only,
circumstances.
like, for instance, when I am remote, a lot of times, and just like we saw with Mayor Lobby, that sometimes the bandwidth isn't enough to have both. So when speaking, I plan to turn my camera off just to make that useful.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, well, our last two action items are both certificates of appropriateness, which are both public hearings. So I am going to go over our public hearing procedure, and then we will commence with each COA in order. Good evening. My name is Dana Green, and I am the mayor of the city of Leadville. This evening, we have two public hearings before City Council. The first hearing will be to consider a certificate of appropriateness application by Donald and Leanne Wagner for a new construction at 400 West 6th Street. The second public hearing will be to consider a certificate of appropriateness application by Eric Rebellious, Workshop 40, for construction of an addition at 139 East 9th Street. I'm going to go over the public hearing procedure, which will be followed in each case, and then we will hear each application separately and in sequence. When each public hearing is opened, I will first attend to some preliminary housekeeping matters. I will then ask for staff to discuss highlights of the staff report. The council will then have the opportunity to ask questions of staff. Next, the applicant may give a brief presentation. Council will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant. The public comment portion of the hearing will then be opened and members of the public will be invited to offer comment. I will close the public comment portion of the public hearing. And once the public comment portion of the hearing is closed, we will not accept further public comments. The council will deliberate, which may include further questioning of staff and/or the applicant, and council will then render a decision which could include a continuation of the hearing. These public hearings are quasi-judicial, which means that we have to follow certain procedural requirements to establish a record. For this reason, it is important that when you speak, you identify yourself and state your physical address. If you would like to submit written materials, please understand that the city will have to hold on to these materials for at least 30 days after City Council renders its decision. Are there any questions about the public hearing procedure? Okay. I will now open the public hearing for 400 West 6th Street, Certificate of Appropriateness for New Construction, applicants Donald and Leanne Wagner. At this time, I ask the city council members to disclose any ex parte communication or conflict of interest with the applicants. Hearing none, will staff please present your report highlights?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, I'm Chicken LaShance, Director of Community Development and Planning. And if you'd like to follow along, I have your staff report starting on page 52 of your packet. So on the screen, I have the proposed elevations for this project at 400 West 6th Street. This is a proposed 3-level home on a very steep site with some topographic challenges. This house is proposed on the rear of the site. And I'll put a site plan on the screen so you can see that. Home is proposed just outside of an existing 25-foot easement that exists on the property. It's essentially an access easement. So the home is proposed to be accessed from the rear of the property, but just outside of that access easement at the highest portion of the site, overlooking West 6th Street. This is a vacant site. It has been vacant since the 1930s, most likely due to the topographic challenges on the site. The Historic Preservation Commission held a public hearing on this in March, and also had a work session preceding that public hearing. I will put the elevation back on the screen. Just quickly narrate the HPC's evaluation of the design standards. Staff report to the Historic Preservation Commission is included in your packet. Essentially, the Historic Preservation Commission found that the proposed design complies with all of the design guidelines. We are reviewing this under our residential infill design guidelines for our National Historic Landmark District. Any site that is vacant where new construction of residential is proposed, we have local design guidelines for that. Another application you'll see tonight, we actually do not have local design guidelines for things like additions, which you'll see later. So the commission generally found that the application complied with all of the design standards, with the exception of parking, windows, and doors. There are conditions of approval that are included in your packet that do address those. The Historic Preservation Commission is recommending that you approve this project with those conditions. There is a condition that the proposed driveway and parking on the site, I'll put that back on the screen, that is proposed to intersect with the platted Leiter Street right-of-way. There's not a street within the Leiter Street right-of-way. That's a right-of-way that was platted in the 1800s. But because of the topography, a street was never constructed there. However, it is still a platted right-of-way. So the applicant is proposing to have a second vehicular access point to the site from off of West 6th Street through the Leiter Street right-of-way, and then on the lowest portion of the property that faces West 6th Street. The Historic Preservation Commission is recommending condition of approval that when the final plans are submitted for building permit, that lower parking space shown here would be removed from the plans. And that's due to, they found it to be non-compliant with the standard regarding parking design in the design standards. Generally speaking, the basis for that recommendation is that in our period of significance, which goes up to 1900, the front of the site was generally not used for vehicles. Generally, the homes were facing the street. Recognizing the unique topography constraints on the property and recognizing that the applicant has shown a secondary parking area off of the access, off of the alley for the access easement. The HPC is saying it's not appropriate to have a second parking area that's most prominent to West 6th Street. The window and door conditions are relatively minor. They're included in your packet. I will note that at the Historic Preservation Commission public hearing, there was a public comment from an adjacent property owner that was essentially in opposition to the off-street parking space that is shown here on your screen. I'll zoom into that. Shown here. And the staff did respond in the public hearing to that public comment as a rebuttal, and essentially stated that whether or not, let me back up, sorry. The public comment was regarding parking within the easement would essentially be violating the terms of the easement. So staff communicated to the HPC in the public hearing that staff has not evaluated the terms of that easement. It's not really our charge when we're reviewing the certificate of appropriateness application. That really is a matter between two private parties, and where the city is not essentially deciding on the rights for access. That would be, the court essentially would have to make that decision if that were to go all the way to court, but that's not for the city of Leadville to decide. And it's also not a criteria for approval for a certificate of appropriateness application. Staff has reviewed the easement language. That easement was recorded in the early 90s. And it essentially states that the easement is dedicated to the adjacent property owners for the purposes of ingress and egress, but it doesn't just have some of the accompanying terms that you would typically see with an easement, such as whether it's an exclusive easement or not. In other words, whether the property owners for this property could park in the easement without obstructing the easement. So that is a matter for private property owners to work out amongst themselves. But again, it's not criteria for approval for certificate of appropriateness application. So again, the HPC is recommending approval with the conditions regarding removal of the off-street parking space at the bottom of the site and regarding the chimney and windows and doors. If the council were to approve this application with those recommended conditions of approval from the HPC that I just mentioned, the council should remove the conditions of approval that are in your packet. Should be, I'll get a page number for you here in a second, but they're noted in your CCF, your council communication form, as conditions of approval number 15, 16, and 24. And those are on the second page of your council communication form, and I quoted those in italics under the category they should be removed. Again, those are conditions of approval number 15, 16, and 24. And those are essentially, if the driveway was to be approved, the street department would want certain things to be done, such as an enforcement license agreement for that driveway, which is most likely need to retain.
And that's for the parking driveway to the parking pad.
Yes, that's for this area here.
Yeah.
So again, HPC is not recommending approval of that, but if you were to approve it, then we would not need to have conditions associated with that.
So, Mr. Strong, so that change our motion option, if council approved the COA to have all the words that are in there along with the attached findings and conditions of approval, except noting the removal of condition 15, 16, and 24. Is that how we would have to modify?
Yes, that's correct. And I can read you a page number if you need it for those conditions of approval.
I think, at least in our CCF, they're on 54.
Would we need to make any mention of, because I just wrote them down for conditions of approval, number 11, 12, 13, and 14, or would we just need to mention the ones that we're removing?
Yeah, for approval of the project, with the condition of approval that the parking space be removed. You would need to make the motion removing conditions of approval number 15, 16, and 24. If you were to, sorry, let me think about this. If you were to approve the project with the driveway and the parking space on the bottom, then you would exclude condition of approval number 14.
Okay, yeah.
Holy cow.
Would we exclude it, or does condition of approval number 14 exclude it?
Yes. Sorry, so the latter. Condition of approval number 14.
So we could leave 14 in because it excludes specifically the driveway.
Yeah.
Or the off-street parking.
Yeah.
If you are approving the project without the driveway.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So, we have a situation where the applicant is proposing the driveway and the second parking space along West Sixth Street. So, at some point tonight, before you make a motion, we need to verbally hear from the applicant that the applicant accepts that condition of approval number 14 regarding removal of that lower driveway. All right. If for some reason the applicant does not accept that, then we would be in a situation where you need to decide if you are approving or denying or continuing. Gotcha.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for that. I hesitate to call it a clarification. But, the additional.
You're doing the motion.
Yes. I'm sorry. Thankfully, we're nowhere close to that part yet. So, Councilmember Drollet can cogitate a little more about that. Are there any other questions for staff? Okay. Are applicants present?
I believe I saw the applicant online.
Donald Wagner is present.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Wagner. Would you like to give a brief presentation on your project?
No, Chapin, I think did a fine job. I appreciate it, Chapin. Thank you. the project, the parking pad at the top is almost insignificant. It's almost non-usable. It would kind of be a place to park for just a few minutes, dropping off groceries. It's critical that the parking pad be approved at the bottom. This is a no-go decision if the parking pad at the bottom doesn't get approved. I mean, we just won't be building. I'll be selling the lot. It's critical that we have a place to park vehicles. And the Historic Preservation Commission has been really great about working with us. And it was even a member of the commission that suggested we kind of put the driveway in at an angle from the lighter area versus straight in from 6th Street. I mean, our original proposal was straight in from 6th Street. But I like the proposal. I like the suggestions that were made. It'd be great if it could be approved. But that piece of that lot down there, that parking pad is critical. I mean, there's nowhere to really park on this property without that parking pad. So I'll leave it at that. I mean, we'll, you can have the discussion and just let me know where we're going with this.
Are there questions for the applicant?
I guess my questions would be, and it sounded like you said no, but you would not accept the condition of approval number 14 to take that out. Is that correct?
I would, I'm wondering if this would be an appropriate time to ask the applicant that question, or if you wanted to have your deliberation.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's not, just maybe just think about that if you wanted to save that, you could again ask the applicant after deliberation. Your choice.
No, well, I'll rescind the question.
For the time being, because I think it's a key question.
Like, we'll need it, but are there other questions for the applicant? Councilmember Edwards or Councilmember Grant?
I do have a question, and I'm sorry, I don't have a paper packet with me, so there might be something in the packet that would answer my question, but the lower parking pad as adjacent to the house, is it a matter of walking upstairs? Is it immediately adjacent to the house? What is the access from the lower parking pad to the built house? Please.
It's envisioned it would be some sort of path. And, when I have the builders looking at this, they want to put the path in where it's appropriate at the time that they're building. So there'd be some kind of envisioned path, but at this point, it's unknown what it would actually look like.
I guess my question is the parking pad on the same level as the bottom level of this 3-story house? Or is it a climb up to the house?
It's probably 8 to 10 feet difference in elevation between the parking pad and the lowest level in the house.
Okay. Okay, so it really is almost a remote parking situation to the house.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
Other questions for the applicant? Okay, I would like to turn now to open the public comment portion of this meeting. Are there members of the public in chambers who would like to give public comment on this application? Please, Steve, come on up. Come up here so we can all hear you.
With regard to this parking issue, why can't they maybe make it a little lower or and build some kind of structure there to park in, and then the structure could be look like a shed or something like that, and be more, I think the objection is there's a car sitting in front there. Maybe if they had something to park into, that objection would be nullified. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the public that would like to give input? How about online? Is there anyone, members of the public online, who would like to give public comment on this application? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public comment portion of the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Made me say that. All in favor? Aye. Councilmember Edwards, was that a finger of approval?
Yes, sorry. Aye.
Okay. All right, let's move on to deliberations. It sounds like there certainly is more to discuss here. I guess I would like to start with a question for staff, which is, I think the issue here, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that as far as our historic guidelines go, we want to emphasize alley loaded parking. Yes?
Yes.
And in this, it's a little hard to tell from the pictures, but I know when we first approved or talked about these guidelines or talked about really emphasizing alley loaded parking, there was some question about like the state of our alleys and if alleys can accommodate that. It's hard for me to see in these pictures necessarily, but did the HPC discuss like the capability of this this plan to accommodate alley loaded parking?
Not in detail. I think it was assumed that this is accessible from the alley. It's really more so the easement that precludes at a minimum the house being located at the rear of the property, but also, it's TBD on the terms of the easement if they have a right to
on there.
So because the alley, it is accessible from the alley, that box is essentially checked. That was assumed, so there wasn't a lot of discussion. Yeah, it's really more about the easement.
Okay. And the easement just gives another neighbor access to their property, but the easement is not the alley.
The easement is not the alley.
Is it in between the?
And I'll narrate this and I can have you put this on the screen to further explain, but it is a 25-foot wide easement that is located directly adjacent to the south side of the alley.
Got it. Yep. Councilmember Edwards.
In this particular section of West Sixth Street, it's a very steep sloping hill there. All of the original houses along that stretch were built at the back of the lot on the upper portion of those properties. This particular property has, I'm familiar with it. This particular property has a very large easement across the back for someone historically to be able to access their garage or barn, which is tucked in behind this property. So that precludes being able to do double parking or a garage at the back of this property. I understand HPC's argument that they would like to avoid front parking on these historic lots. But in this particular case, it might be the only way that this particular lot is buildable and livable. So I would ask council to take that into consideration. Were they able to have, if the easement wasn't at the back of the property, they would have easily parking for 4 cars off of the back of the alley, but they don't have that. There's an existing easement. So the only way to make this a living, working lot for a modern family would be to have a adjacent parking place on the front of that property. It is the fronts of these properties, at least the ones adjacent to them, are so steep that they are truly unbuildable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Edwards. Other comments, discussions?
I would just kind of piggyback on what Councilmember Edwards said. This lot seems to have 3 big constraints: an easement, very steep topography, and historic preservation guidelines. And many of our properties might have 2 or 1 of those things, but all 3 does make it seem like a very challenging site to build. It's probably why there's nothing there right now. So I'm inclined to agree with Councilmember Edwards and support that, knowing that if any one of those things has to flex a little, it makes sense that the historic preservation guidelines would be the ones to flex. And the house in general complies with the other criteria with the amendments. So when I think about its contribution to our historic district, I feel like it's the bulk of the house is contributing. It's just that one kind of logistical accommodation to make it work.
Chapin, can you talk a little bit more about the easement? Cause I'm a little bit bogged down. There are two easements. There's the easy one off of Liger Street, but then there's the other one off the alley. I'm not fully understanding the constraints with the easement along the alley for parking. It sounds like they could approach the house and park for some period of time. I'm
Yeah,
not really
I
understanding.
think you've heard me use two terms. One is right of way.
Yeah.
And the other is easement. So technically there's one easement on the property. So within their private property boundary, they have just the one easement on the northern part of the site. Which is labeled as a 25-foot ingress and egress easement.
It looks like a driveway now in that area.
Yeah, there's an existing driveway using that easement to the adjacent properties to the west.
Okay.
And then there's the city's Lighter Street right of way. It was platted in the 1880s, which we never built a street on because of the flood.
But it's a great footprint.
Yes. So the easement across the northern portion of the property now, that's the dispute between the two neighbors? Because it looks like that's already on the applicant's property.
Yeah, the applicant acknowledges the easement is on the property. That there is I think that the public comment that was made at HPC from the neighbor was like expressing opposition to the applicant parking within that.
I'm looking at page, sorry, were you done, Rebecca?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I'm looking at page 107 of the packet.
Yes.
And so there's a parking area outlined there. And it says 9-foot by 18-foot parking stall. How many parking spaces is that?
One.
That's one?
Is that up, like on that, you've blown that area up, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yep.
So there's essentially one parking spot there. And then just north of it is that an existing gravel drive. And that has the easement on it.
Yeah, well, I think this may be a good point for me to share screen and just do a little bit additional narration. Okay. So I'm on page 107, it's displayed on the screen, page 107 of your packet, which is essentially the applicant's site plan based on the survey of their property. And we're looking at the northernmost part of their site, the uphill part of their site, which is adjacent to the rear alley. And so the rear alley right of way is draw on the screen here. Okay, it's not gonna let me do that, but the rear alley right of way is shown here where my cursor is circling to the north of the property. And then all the way down to this line here, the site is encumbered by a 25-foot ingress and egress easement. So essentially, it's still the applicant's property in this area, but they, the adjacent 4 lots to the west just have the right to cross their property to come in and out.
So on that picture, the parking area that is outlined is primarily sitting in that easement
Correct.
area. Yeah.
Yes.
But the neighbors will still be able to get to and from their house because of the existing gravel drive.
I think that's the logical next thought. It just technically, it is not for the city to decide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilmember Edwards?
Just for clarification, a standard parking lot size these days is a 10-foot by 20-foot. And you'll notice that they drew a 9 by 18 there because a 10-foot by 20-foot parking lot, or the size of a normal size large pickup truck these days, won't fit in that space. So there's no way to get more than one car there. And even then you wouldn't be able to get anything like a Sprinter van or a full-size extended pickup truck into that space and still allow the neighbors to have access to their property.
Who would want a full-size pickup on this?
Apparently a lot of people.
A lot of people.
Thanks for clarifying that. That helps.
Remind me, how big is the proposed pad on West Sixth?
35 by 30. 35 to 30. I just found. Oh, I'm right there.
Oh, yeah, I guess I am too. I just had to look.
Yeah. We're almost there.
And so as it is shown here, the street department would require an encouragement license agreement for encouragement into the right of way, which would come in front of the city council for approval.
Okay, at a
Yes,
different.
correct.
point.
Would people still be able to walk that, like, easement straight up the hill?
The right of way.
Yeah.
It's not using the entire right of way. So I would say yes, and the encroachment license agreement can spell out the terms of that. So there will be, so I think the answer is yes, and the opportunity to ensure that, remains.
Okay, so that's not what we would decide now. We would decide that in the encroachment agreement.
Correct.
I'd like to preserve that pedestrian access if possible.
And that might be like, that's a paved driveway kind of covering that, which could give the illusion that you can no longer walk there or something. So it would be kind of clarification.
Councilmember Edwards, did you have another comment?
Nope, sorry, forgot to take it down. Thanks.
I mean, yeah, it seems to me that this is a unique situation, because of the topography, like you were saying, and Councilmember Edwards was saying, that it doesn't feel like your typical scenario of needing to address the parking issue is distinct, and feels like it can't be addressed otherwise. Yeah.
I know we have all the notes from the HPC meetings, but Chapin, could you talk a little bit more about how that discussion went? It looks like the applicant is talking about landscaping to try to screen the parking pad from West Sixth.
okay,
So I think that's right, going up and down West Sixth, you don't have parking right along West Sixth.
There's that one that has gravelled in area.
Towards the top of the hill.
No,
It's on
like
the, just
right
down.
next,
Yeah.
almost right next door.
Yeah,
I
they-
didn't know if we could ask about that or
No, that's right.
if they just did that.
That's funny, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, you really can't plug in the street.
Sorry,
Yeah.
To Councilmember Thomas's question, do you want to weigh in on that?
The short version is that it was related to design standard 6 regarding parking design in the residential and full design guidelines. And I can put that on the screen, for further discussion.
I guess part of my question too is, did HPC have an alternative solution to parking? You can't build a house without it.
Yeah, I think the consideration was that the applicant was showing a parking space on the northern part of the site. So they, like I said, it's my understanding that they were not making that recommendation for the condition of approval regarding removal of the lower parking space, with the understanding that that would leave the applicant with 0 off-street parking. Staff certainly acknowledged the HPC and acknowledges here now that the site is constrained, especially considering the access easement on the northern part of the site, that, you know, the terms of that are to be determined.
You know what I find kind of interesting? Is like, the idea is to park behind the house because that's historic, but people just park on the street in front of the house. So it's like, not that historic.
You can't park on West Sixth in that area.
Yeah, and In this case, nobody's gonna build a 3-story house. You know, nobody's gonna build a new 3-story house with no way to park and no way to adjacently park. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And there, I mean, I see parking pads, so there's no anticipation that there would be a big Butler building style barn garage. It's just a pad.
Correct. We did see discussion of that, of a structure in a work session previously, but that is not proposed with the application at this time.
I understand what you guys are saying about parking in the front versus parking in the back. I live on 6th Street. I do not have any parking in the back of my house. So yes, absolutely. I bought the house knowing that there was really no place that I could dedicatedly park because I can't pay my $100 for my parking spot anymore. But I'm having a real hard time when I look at this one picture. I don't know what page it's on, but the home is plotted out at 28 by 28, parking lot, parking pad, 35 by 30. So that's going to be bigger than the footprint of the house, which means it's going to be right there in the face. So I understand that they have landscaping for screening, but I can't imagine that they're going to be buying fully grown trees, fully grown shrubs to make it so you're not going to see them. I'm pretty sure also that in the packet, I read that they're building this that large so that they can put their RV there. Is that correct? That's
The applicant has stated that. I think
Yeah.
staff always considers future ownership of the property also.
Is there, and I'm just vaguely recalling this from other applications, that like when you are building another structure and like a garage or something, like it cannot be the prominent, like it can't be higher than the principal structure. It has to be subservient essentially to the primary structure. Is that, am I recalling that correctly?
Yeah, although there's not a secondary structure proposed here.
Correct.
Yes, and generally the language is that it needs to be subordinate to
Not
the
subservient,
primary structure.
subordinate is the better word.
Yep.
I'm just trying to figure out how structures could be
And there are a
subservient.
variety of ways to accomplish that. Generally speaking, but yeah, secondary structures additions should be subordinate to the primary historic structure.
I'm just questioning that in light of Councilmember Dollick's point that the footprint is considerably bigger than the primary proposed residence.
I think that would be a valid point if they were building a structure, but this is not a structure. This is a clearing at the bottom of the lot.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion about trying to maintain the one parking area at the northern end of the lot and then reducing the size of the parking pad to be a spot for one car?
No, nothing substantial from the HPC on that.
Probably just because the parking space at the northern end is in such question, right?
Yeah, I think everyone is recognizing that the staff, the HPC, the applicant is recognizing that, that because it is a steep site, there would be significant expense added to the cost of construction to bring the location of the structure further south, due to retaining, et cetera. So while that would, add additional room for an off-street parking space accessible from the rear from the alley and fully outside of the ingress and egress easement, 25-foot easement, that would most likely add significant cost because they're now approaching the middle and steepest portions of the site.
It is tricky.
So how many parking spots is a 35 by 30? Is that like 5 parking spots?
That would be, well, Coming in from that orientation, that would be 3.
3 parking spots.
And big enough to put your RV on,
Mhm.
which you can't do up at the top.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, an interesting aspect of this to me is that as you drive along Sixth Street, all this stuff is up. Like, I imagine the parking is going to be up from not level with the street. So it's not like it's as in your face, especially if there's some potential greenery, wind blocks, trees. The visibility feels less because it is quite a rise, but I'm not sure, at what level. It's hard to tell from this. Is this right at street level? Is this also up into the hillside a little bit?
This kind of page 108 shows a little bit.
How close?
I mean, it's still
This is
pretty
showing
close.
6 feet off of.
Yeah.
6.
This is showing 6 feet
Yeah.
off of, okay, yeah.
So it's gonna be
Pretty
right there.
Pretty right there, okay.
Oh, yeah. Look at all the houses.
Yeah, that's true.
Even Big Allen stores are
first. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Jacob, I guess, one more question. So after saying it's showing 6 feet, I'm sure you can't see that, but this is the picture that I'm looking at.
Which page is it?
It shows, I assume it's the property line.
Oh, I see what you're
It is
saying.
10 feet from Sixth Street.
Mhm.
But the parking pad, is that going to then be coming into the right of way for Sixth Street?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's
And that's
the
the
reason why the condition of approval is necessary for the encroachment license.
Right. You know why they wouldn't put the entire thing on their property?
Yeah.
Grade, the further you go into
The grade.
the site.
Right, no, and I understand that,
more
but
retaining.
I mean,
They could make it smaller though and fit it onto their own
they
property.
could make it smaller, they could,
And this is a parking pad with like a retaining wall at the north, sort of cutting into the hillside at the north and maybe east and west sides of the property.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it would have a retaining wall
almost a shorter.
at the edge of the parking pad.
Yes, almost certainly. Your staff report, notes the deficiencies of the site plan that was submitted. But we've also noted that we can pick up those details with the encroachment license. But yes, we're assuming there would be retaining.
And Jacob, I know you said this earlier, but I think I kind of glossed over it. There was a neighbor that came to the hearing at the HPC and had an opinion. Did they have an opinion about the parking pad? Or was it just the?
I think it was just an advice from easement. That was the comment.
The concern that rose to the top, I think that the HBC was here and was regarding the access. I would have to go back and they did provide additional comments. I'd have to go back and look at the minutes to recall exactly what they said about the parking space and the lower portion of the site. I do have those accessible.
Councilmember Edwards.
This is going to be something based on our previous presentations tonight, talking about the importance of infill development in Leadville. This is not an affordable house, and I understand that, but the lots that haven't been built on in Leadville or haven't been recently built on in Leadville are all not built on because they have pretty significant challenges. This is one of those. We've seen a couple of other ones come through over the past year or two that had similar challenges. I think it's important that we remember that we have our historic guidelines and we want to follow them as best we can. but this is how we infill Leadville. Making these decisions, allowing people to have parking places for cars that they can't operate without is an important thing to have, and we need to be careful about how we do it. But there are times, and this is one of those times, where there's really no other way to make this a viable lot. So
Thank you, Councilmember Edwards. I would also like to point out, because what I'm hearing is that there is some heartburn over having such a large parking pad so close to 6th Street with some potential, vehicles kind of in your face. And I would like to point out that on the other side of the lighter footpath, there's also a storage container right up next to 6th Street. I guess it's not the most attractive street front to begin with.
It's not a typical street front.
It's not a typical street front.
What is the
We're
harm of
talking about my street.
having?
Traditionally, a beautiful aesthetic street front.
Challenging section of 6th Street for building. I mean, Councilmember Edwards has made really good points that I just don't see, if we'd prefer it not to be built on, that seems like the alternative.
I don't disagree with Councilmember Edwards, with regards to parking, but to say there's no other way to do it, at least from what I've read in the packet, we're not making parking spaces for cars alone. If it were just a couple of cars, that would be fine. But I am under the distinct impression that the pad is this large to accommodate an RV.
Yeah.
And I don't see how saying I can't live here without my RV. That's a whole different thing than if they just needed their cars there. So.
Sorry, I have to get on my glasses. Councilmember Edwards.
Thank you. Councilmember Delic, I understand your concern with the size of the parking place, but at the same time, this is infill development. This is a new house that someone's building. It's not a small new house that someone's building. And at least as for me, if I was going to go to the trouble of building in a National Historic District and I was going to build a new custom house in that lot, I would want to be able to accommodate my toys. I don't think that that's an unreasonable ask here. Now, if someone was asking for a 30 by 35 foot parking pad in front of a 1880s Victorian, I might have a very different argument. But in this case, I don't find it to be unsuitable, and I worry a little bit about council coming across. Well, NIMBYism is the term that keeps coming across my brain, and I want to be careful that we are conscious of that when we're trying to make these decisions.
I would just point out, it's not NIMBY, it would be front yard, not as my front yard.
Nymphy?
Yeah.
It's not even. Okay. We do need to arrive at a decision, and I think that this is a very good and robust discussion. But I'd kind of like to do a straw poll on what people are, like where they're resting in terms of the conditions, and we can approve, we can deny, we can continue. We have to have reasons for continuation, and that does not, I don't believe, include people need to talk some more about it amongst ourselves. So what are you thinking?
I just have one more question.
Yes, please.
Then I'll have an opinion.
Okay.
Did HPC and the applicant talk about shrinking the parking pad to be 35 by 20 so that it was all on their property and an easement wouldn't be required? You could still get a couple of cars there, and it would be a little bit further back from 6th Street.
I do not recall the discussion on kind of an in-between situation.
That might be a question for them.
Yes.
Would you?
Yeah.
I think the applicant is still with us.
Mr. Wagner, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Maybe just be really clear, and repeat the question to Mr. Wagner.
Okay, so Mr. Wagner, this is council member Rebecca Thomas, and I'm curious about the size of the parking pad and if it could be somewhat smaller, say 35 by 25 or whatever number it would have to be to make sure that the parking pad was entirely on land that you already own, so that we wouldn't have to do easement, and it would be a little bit farther back from 6th Street. Is that a possibility or a consideration?
Is this question directed at me?
Yes, sir, it
Okay.
is.
Okay, it does not need to come into we don't need the variance to get it closer to 6th Street. I can put it back further on the lot. As for the size of 35 by 30, I think it's right. It's the right size to hold a few vehicles. I mean, I anticipate my daughters, and their families coming to ski there in the winter. We're going to be full-time residents there. This isn't going to be a second home for us. We're not going to be renting it out. I really wanted the parking area to be that large so where I could accommodate a few cars if I needed to have them there. And I anticipate they'll be there, not all the time, but there's going to be certain times of the year where we're going to have family visiting and we're going to need that parking area. So yeah, we can push it back. We don't need the variance, although it would be nice not to have such an incline to get up into the parking pad from the street. But if we need to have that an incline, so be it. We'll live with that.
That's why I ran for the straw poll. I kind of like the idea of pushing the parking pad back a little bit from 6th Street, so it's not quite so prominent.
That help to address some of the concerns. Councilmember Dowd.
Unfortunately not. I mean, I appreciate the give, but
Regent Phelps, what's your heart?
I would approve with the parking pad as is. I don't think a 5-foot reduction really changes the impact to the historic character. So if the landowner would prefer it that size, to me, the compromise doesn't really make it more valuable to the district or anything. And it just seems like when you drive on 6th Street, you're driving past parked cars all the time. So
not on this section, but
well, yeah, but on the rest of it. So what's the harm of driving past more parked cars on this section?
Councilmember Carey, where is your heart?
I think I'm kind of with Cisco. I don't know that extra 6 feet would make that much of a difference. And I guess, like I said, the situation there just feels distinct and unique. And
Councilmember Edwards, you can weigh in, but I think you've made your position pretty clear.
I only have one more little thing, and I'll be very quick. If he moves the parking pad back, it raises the elevation to get a car up there, and that creates a hazard as people are trying to merge onto Harrison Avenue, onto 6th Street. So I would counsel that we agree to it as drawn. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So just to review, because I know we went through a whole bunch of different,
do you want to check with Shannon?
Oh, Councilmember Grant, sorry.
Hey, that's okay. I think at this point, I was in transition, so I missed a portion of the presentation. So I need to abstain because I missed part of the information.
I think that sounds reasonable. Yeah. So with, there was a lot of back and forth about framing a motion in which conditions to apply or remove. And if I'm recalling correctly, to approve the certificate of appropriateness as the packet describes, this would be without the parking pad in the front, we would remove conditions 15, 16, and 24, but to approve the certificate of appropriateness, in allowing for the parking pad, we would, remove condition 14 and just leave it at that. Is that fair? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so does everyone understand those options?
Yeah, Mayor, what is your opinion on it?
You know, I feel, I struggle a little bit just because I feel that, yes, we need to make unique decisions for specific odd properties, but I also worry about, the creep of those kind of modifications for further development along that particular block. But truly, I'm okay with the parking pad, but largely based because of the other parking arrangements in the nearby homes up the street from there. Okay, is there further discussion, or would someone like to make a motion of their design? Of their own design?
I'll make a motion. Councilmember Tharp moves the city approve the certificate of appropriateness for the Wagner Residence residential infill PL 2025-107 located at 400 West 6th Street, along with the attached findings and conditions of approval minus condition 14.
Edward seconds.
Is that right?
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Can I clarify something?
Sure.
Since we own, are we saying that we are adding 11, 12, and 13? Because that was not specifically mentioned.
I move to include the conditions of approval minus number 14.
Minus number 14.
Correct. So the motion on the floor is for approval of the project as the applicant has proposed. And that would include the conditions of approval. So the motion was just made would include the conditions of approval number 11, 12, and 13 recommended from the HDC. That regarding chimney, doors, and the bits.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor and a second. Let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Thomas?
No.
Councilmember Edwards?
Did you say Edwards?
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Tharp?
Yes.
Councilmember Carey?
Yes.
Councilmember Grant?
Abstain.
Councilmember Dolan?
No.
And Mayor Green?
Yes. Okay. Well, that was hard work. Thank you all for your engagement in that discussion.
So for the record, staff understands that this certificate of appropriateness is approved as proposed. And we will work with the applicant to issue a letter of approval.
Okay. With the conditions, all the conditions
Yes.
except for removing 14.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I would like to close the public hearing for that. Public hearing, and then we'll just move to open. I'll just open another public hearing.
You want to, yeah.
Do you want to recess?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break and let people shake their heads out.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then I'll straighten you there.
Well, I have all the documents that she's open. Just gonna
Yeah, the problem with the system. Oh, yeah,
It's pretty small. It's like a 30-foot wide lot, so it's really narrow. So there's like a hidden yard back there. And there is like a little strip on the side, maybe that's what you're talking about, but it's like, it's pretty tight. Yeah, it's a postage stamp. There's some grass.
Maybe it's the next property on the.
The next property over, they're paying the back the cars, and I think it's total. You guys are operating in town right now.
What do you want to do?
They want to do an addition and they want to restore. Thank you. So the addition to the
Back and you can see that, so that should, the historic preservation. Okay, you're pretty much. Rebecca Thomas's husband is on the historic preservation.
Okay.
I see the aircraft. I
see conflicts with control. I see you here and a lot of just have that.
Every, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
You see conflicts because of the size of your community?
No, it's not, well, if you're hinting towards this, we wear different hats, theories, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I totally disagree with that one, because, well, the thing I brought up was the relationship. Definitely supported historic preservation, you. And to me, there's a conflict of interest there because Joey Edwards is a builder and he'll be soliciting more clients by saying, hey, you know, I got this one for you. Got the clients. So, maybe my objections are tenacious, I don't know. P and Z on the buying. Why? Affordable housing. That's my main selling. Well, something else. I didn't tell me what's else. So. I understand. 2 to 5 acre spots on this side, on the east side.
It's not anything.
5 acre spots on the west side. Possibly develop an area there.
I know this is gonna come up.
$280,000 a year.
If they're going to go,
Yeah, as opposed
I don't know
to.
what 6 feet is, but what's in the knowledge tree?
That's.
6 people.
People are outside of that.
Right there.
So that's what it is. And why?
Right.
So.
Sure.
Rather, what you're bringing up.
How am I gonna remember this? You know,
You know, what we have is, Chapin's, pneumatic brain that would repeat all of this. I think he.
Also, you have another feeling. Remember.
Yeah, I didn't want to diss your street, by the way.
I
Oh,
did
no.
not-
Wasn't dissing your street. Hey, Ally, I think your street's probably pretty typical of our town, of Leadville in general.
I mean, it's literally one street and it is literally from Harrison to